I'm the wife, I'm prettier, and I just show him my boobs and I win the argument.
Come on, man, we got some of the toughest old folks in our family. They don't wear no damn sunscreen. What are you talking? Man, no way. No way. My granddaddy was working in the heat. My grandma working in the heat. They ain't had no sunscreen. They was working. They was getting it in. Like, go in the kitchen and get the
Me and my
biscuits
husband
in.
are the same color. Look at us. We the same color.
We sure is.
We the same.
On the morning of January 7, 2024, a teenager would dial 911. She had just walked into a heartbreaking scene. Her mother had been stabbed 17 times on her neck and chest. When the police arrived at the apartment on McKinney Drive in Westland, Michigan, what they found was gruesome. They found a 49-year-old devoted wife found covered in multiple stab wounds, lifeless and in a pool of her own blood. No one could have predicted what had happened until they discovered the shocking truth that would change everything. The very person responsible for killing her was the same person who had vowed to protect and care for her. But the most chilling detail of it was that he did it all these years after she told him her secret. This is the life and death of Kelly Mays.
My daughters have helped me heal because I look at them and I'm hopeful for a world without domestic violence. I know statistically that they are at risk, but I'm hopeful for them. I'm hopeful for me. I'm hopeful that these stories that I'm sharing will be a tool, a guide for them. And the most real I am with myself, and it's helped me go and reach into dark places that I wouldn't otherwise be able to talk about, experiences that I wouldn't be able to talk about, and to bring them out and share them with people. It's empowered me, it's empowered other survivors to share their experiences.
Kelly's story takes us to the quiet suburban city of Westland, Michigan, USA. Known for its welcoming neighborhoods, sprawling parks, and strong community ties, Westland often radiates a sense of calm and security, a place where tragedy seems out of reach. Yet even towns like Westland aren't immune to darkness. And it was within this very city that Kelly's life was horrifically cut short, right inside her own home. 49-year-old Kelly Ann Mays was born on November 21, 1974, to Ralph Mays and Janice Watkins Mays in Detroit, Michigan. She was the youngest of 3 children and held a special place in the family. Her sister Stacy lovingly nicknamed her Twin B, a reflection of their deep and inseparable bond. From an early age, Kelly's kindness, academic focus, and emotional strength were impossible to miss. She cared deeply, worked hard, and never gave up, traits that followed her throughout her life and education. Kelly graduated from Detroit Public Schools, where her drive and determination began to shine. She later attended Central Michigan University, earning a bachelor's degree in psychology. But her academic journey didn't stop there. She went on to earn a master's degree in counseling from the University of Phoenix. Still, Kelly wasn't done pushing herself. She returned to CMU to pursue a second master's degree. By 2021, she was just months away from achieving this new goal. But heartbreakingly, this milestone was one she would never get the chance to reach. As Kelly embarked on her professional journey, her innate compassion and evolving expertise laid the groundwork for her life's mission. She became the Community and Staff Training Program Manager at Hejira Health, Inc., where she also served as a mental health therapist. Working primarily with children and teens, Kelly brought a deeply personal touch to every session. She had a rare gift, being able to hold space for someone in their darkest hour and guide them gently toward healing. Her office was more than a clinical environment. It was a sanctuary for those seeking hope. Yet behind this professional success and community impact, Kelly faced a nightmare she knew all too well.
So God removed that person out of your life, and they moved on. And as a result, you no longer have a stomach ache. They are someone else's stomach ache. So consider yourself, well, lucky. They've moved on. They're someone else's stomach ache. And God is taking care of you. So be blessed. You no longer have spoiled milk in your refrigerator.
In 2008, she entered a relationship with a man who would change the course of her life in a devastating way. Though his identity remains unclear, what is certain is that Kelly loved him fiercely and missed the warning signs that later revealed themselves in abusive behavior. What started as a loving relationship gradually became marked by control, manipulation, and emotional abuse. Then, in 2010, tragedy struck on their daughter's first birthday. An explosive argument escalated into a violent physical assault. Kelly was left gravely injured and was hospitalized. That moment left a permanent scar, but it did not define her. Instead, it ignited a new purpose. After the attack, she ended the marriage and turned her pain into purpose, becoming an outspoken advocate against domestic violence. Kelly made it her mission to ensure others would not suffer in silence, as she once did. Her work provided a lifeline for many, and her story became a beacon of resilience and hope. Driven by determination and passion, Kelly emerged as a compelling motivational speaker. She shared her journey on news channels, podcasts, and at events centered on domestic abuse awareness, mental health, and trauma recovery. Her lived experience gave her words authenticity. She didn't just talk about survival, she embodied it. Through her nonprofit, A Survivor's Story, Kelly created safe spaces for others to heal, transforming her pain into purpose and empowering those still finding their voice. But just when Kelly seemed to have reclaimed her footing, fate sent another unexpected twist. She met 31-year-old Jimmy Lee Brown, a man who seemed to represent love and stability at last. At first, everything appeared perfect. Jimmy seemed exactly the kind of person someone might build a life with. Charming, funny, someone who just clicked with Kelly. On top of that, he appeared to have a respectable background. He was known as a rapper featured in the movie 8 Mile alongside Eminem and performed under the stage name Supa MC.
Okay, we not getting nowhere. But you know, at the end of the day, what's gonna happen is I'm gonna say, I want you to wear sunscreen. He's gonna say, I'm not gonna wear sunscreen. I'm gonna just cry and say, but I love you. Can you please wear sunscreen? Because I think it's really, really important. And he's gonna wear sunscreen. There you go.
Come on, man. We got some of the toughest old folks in our family. They don't wear no damn sunscreen. What are you talking? Man, no way. No way. My granddaddy was working in the heat. My grandma working in the heat. They ain't had no sunscreen. They was working. They was getting it in. Like, go in the kitchen and get the
Me and my husband are the same color. Look at us. We the same color.
We sure is.
We the same color. I'm dark, just like my husband. I got the melanin.
You have a dark mind.
I hate you. He gonna still wear the sunscreen. I don't know what he's talking about. He mad. I always win the arguments because, you know, I'm the wife, I'm prettier, and I just show him my boobs and I win the argument.
But beneath this charismatic exterior lay a hidden past, one that should have triggered all of Kelly's instincts. In 1993, Jimmy was convicted of using a firearm during 2 separate crimes, an assault that could have caused grievous injury and an armed robbery. He served prison time for both before being released. These convictions weren't just remnants of a rough past. They were clear warnings that Jimmy was capable of serious violence. But despite those red flags, Kelly made the same mistake again. She chose to overlook them. Kelly convinced herself that love could overcome even the darkest history. In 2015, she married Jimmy, committing to what she hoped would be a lifelong partnership. At first, their relationship felt stable. Jimmy seemed affectionate, supportive, and even joined Kelly at advocacy events, proudly standing beside her as she spoke about survival and empowerment. From the outside, they were building a future grounded in mutual growth and healing. But not just that. Jimmy stepped into a fatherly role for Kelly's daughters, attending birthday parties, school events, and graduations. Kelly often shared joyful moments on social media, family outings, playful banter, and examples of the loving dynamic that Kelly's daughters came to appreciate in Jimmy.
See what I gotta deal with?
For the better part of 13 years, their marriage appeared to embody the stable, happy life Kelly had always hoped for. Genuine moments of joy and togetherness filled their home. Yet behind those smiles, a disturbing reality would slowly reveal itself. Over the years together, Kelly and Jimmy's relationship was far from perfect. Behind closed doors, the tension had been steadily growing. What might have once been playful teasing between them slowly transformed into harsh arguments and cutting remarks. Her two young daughters witnessed it all, the shouting matches and the moments when tension filled the air like smoke. They watched their mother try to stay composed, trying to make a family work even as the foundation cracked beneath them. And as time passed, the arguments became more intense. At first, Kelly tried to shield her children from it all. But kids sense more than adults like to admit. They could see the sadness in her eyes. Eventually, her daughters, frightened, confused, and desperate for peace, begged her to end the relationship. But like many survivors of domestic abuse, Kelly stayed. She told herself she was staying for the children, for the vows she made, for the hope that things might change. She clung to the man Jimmy used to be, or the version of him she once loved. Still, a person can only carry so much before the weight becomes unbearable. Despite her efforts to keep the marriage together, she was running out of strength. And what neither she nor anyone around her could predict was just how fast everything would unravel.
I didn't have enough money to fill my car and my child's belly. Funny how life is. Keep writing, you will get to funny. Keep laughing. Laughter is the only thing that will make this poem funny. Like that time I wrote my first haiku along the wall of my college dorm. Funny, it was actually a suicide note. Funny, no one noticed.
By the start of 2024, something inside Kelly had shifted. After enduring years of emotional strain and turmoil, she finally found the strength to say the words that had lived silently in her mind for far too long. One evening, she looked Jimmy in the eyes, calm but resolute, and told him her secret. She was done. It wasn't just a spontaneous decision. It was the result of months, if not years, of internal battle, of trying to convince herself that things would get better. But now, she has reached her edge, and she said it plainly, she was leaving. Just as she had told other women in her advocacy work and community talks, she now had to take her own advice.
Get the process, get the courage to move forward. What's the first step?
The first step is deciding when you're ready to leave. You know, like survivors have to decide when they're ready to leave. You can't make someone leave. You can't encourage them to leave. But at that moment when they're ready to leave, the second thing is to get support. Haven is a great organization to find and to connect with supports, to also talk with survivors like me.
Her life, her safety, her future, her children, all of it depended on this choice. And at first, the man she was leaving didn't give her a reason to worry. Jimmy didn't argue at first. He seemed to take the news quietly, almost too quietly. They talked mostly about the details: who would take what, where the girls would stay, how they'd split responsibilities. There were no loud confrontations, no police calls, no visible signs of chaos. From the outside, everything appeared civil. But under the surface, something far more dangerous was brewing. After a few days, Jimmy began to unravel. He withdrew, grew angry, and became obsessively fixated on Kelly's decision. To him, her choice wasn't healthy or final, it was betrayal. While he claimed he understood, underneath it all, he hadn't accepted it. Kelly didn't realize just how close she was to danger, but his rage was building toward a devastating climax. And then things would take a horrifying turn of events. On the morning of January 7th, 2024, one of Kelly's daughters, Celeste, returned to their apartment on McKinney Drive in Westland, Michigan, and immediately sensed something was wrong. The silence hit her the moment she stepped inside. It was the kind of quiet that weighs heavy before the mind can process it. The lights were on, Kelly's belongings untouched, but there was no answer when Celeste called out. She moved through the living room, her unease mounting with each step. By the time she reached her mother's bedroom, she found herself face to face with a nightmare she never expected. Kelly lay collapsed on the floor, her body surrounded by a pool of blood. Multiple deep wounds marred her neck and chest. There were no signs of forced entry, no sign of a struggle outside that room, just the aftermath of brutal violence. It was a scene too traumatic for any daughter to witness. Driven by denial, Celeste reached out and touched Kelly's foot, hoping for a pulse, but all she felt was the cold hardness of death. It was then she knew her mother was gone. Shaking uncontrollably, Celeste dialed 911. Moments later, Westland police arrived and confirmed Celeste's worst fear. Kelly Mays was dead. She had been stabbed 17 times, with the majority of wounds inflicted to the neck and chest. The violence of the attack stunned the officers. Who could commit such a savage act? As the investigation began, detectives focused on those closest to Kelly. In Celeste's mind, only one person matched the profile, a man with the motive, the history, and the capacity for such brutality, Jimmy Lee Brown. Before detectives could issue an arrest warrant or start searching for him, something unexpected happened. Just hours later, Jimmy walked into the Westland Police Department and surrendered. There was no pursuit, no refusal, no attempt to evade responsibility. The man who took Kelly's life simply walked in without a word. To investigators, his surrender was a breakthrough and chilling confirmation of their darkest suspicions. But it marked only the beginning of a long and painful fight for justice. On January 8, 2024, the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office filed a first-degree murder charge against Jimmy Lee Brown in connection with Kelly's death. News of his surrender spread rapidly. Within hours, the story was headline news across Detroit outlets and social media, fueled by the shock surrounding Kelly, a prominent advocate for domestic abuse survivors. As investigators built their case and the community mourned, the legal process moved forward under intense scrutiny. Weeks turned into months, and the weight of evidence and the grief of Kelly's loved ones weighed heavily on the courtroom.
We're learning more tonight about an important voice for domestic violence victims that has been silenced.
Yeah, Kelly Mays was a well-known survivor of domestic violence who found her voice helping others suffering through abusive relationships at home. The man accused of killing her is Jimmy Lee Brown. Now, he's a rap artist known as Super MC.
Then Jimmy Wood stunned many. Jimmy didn't put up a courtroom fight, he just pledged guilty. To avoid a long trial, he admitted to second-degree murder and formally expressed remorse for the killing of 40-year-old Kelly Ann Mays. Yet his apology fell flat, as it failed to erase the horror of her murder or bring solace to those she left behind.
What argument or disagreement occurred that day? There's no argument or disagreement you should state that justified these acts.
Finally, on March 10, 2025, more than a year after Kelly's tragic death, the court handed down its sentence. Jimmy was given 18 to 40 years in prison, requiring at least 18 years before becoming eligible for parole. His punishment was far from sufficient to heal the wounds of her loss, but at least he would pay a steep legal price.
I always received an ecstatic happy birthday twin A from her, and I would reply, happy birthday twin B.
Meanwhile, Kelly's family remained in mourning. In the aftermath of her death, vigils were held to honor her legacy. Friends, coworkers, and survivors she mentored gathered to light candles, share photos, and speak not only of her death, but of the impact she had in life.
She was a loving person that cared about everybody. I mean, you know, Kelly, if she didn't even have to know you to come up to you and talk to you, she was a very open and honest person.
Other figure, you know, anytime you did something, it was like, you can't do that, you know, it was like, do better, you know, she was always that motivator.
We want to promise, you know, to Kelly's memory is to continue the mission and continue to help awareness for domestic violence and knowing and people to continue to know that there's help.
Her daughters were hit hardest. Emily, the eldest, found herself thrust into a caretaker role for her younger sister. Celeste faced the loss of her mother while bracing herself to protect her sibling from the fallout of their new reality. On January 20, 2024, Kelly Ann Mays was laid to rest in Detroit, the city of her birth. As loved ones covered her grave with dirt, they whispered words of love and remembrance, determined that her spirit and her mission would continue to guide them. Kelly's tragic passing left a profound void in her family and reinforced the silent devastation of domestic violence. She was known for her courage, her advocacy, and her strength. But her death was a painful reminder that even the strongest can be hidden victims, fighting unseen battles. What do you think about it? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And if you found this story intriguing, please like, share, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.